guys, Jamie here. So today I just was thinking about how, like, for the longest time now, I have just been on this like path of wanting to find out the truth about things, and I've mentioned this in another video. And because in the last little while, the last few years, I've been realizing a lot of lies that I've been noticing, and it's just making me reflect on. Uh, just my past and why I feel like I wasn't so concerned about the truth when I was in my teens and in 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, stuff like that. And I think the reason is because back then I just had blind trust and faith in everything. Anything that people were telling me at schools, in all the institutions, what I was learning, anything that was fed to me that was from like a higher source or like someone that I deemed, you know, all more knowing than me anyways, I took everything as truth and fact, and I just had blind trust. And in some ways that was actually nice, because in some ways because my mind wasn't preoccupied with, not trusting things, and that's a good place to be. It's a nice place to be when you can just, your mind feels a little bit more free. And so I just had all this like blind trust and faith in everything that I was ever taught, like at school, anything I ever read, institutions I had trust in. Yeah, there was aspects of that were really nice, to be honest. But in the end, it will harm you. Okay. In the end, not knowing the truth actually can harm you. It maybe it freed my mind. Okay. Which can be definitely good, but in the end, it will harm you. Because we don't want to go around thinking that we can't trust, right? That's not a good place to be. But unfortunately, in the times that we're in, that is just the truth. You really have to seek the truth out, okay? It's not just handed to you on a silver platter, unfortunately. And now I'm realizing a lot of things that I put trust in, actually they're lying. So yeah, it's not a good place to be because it does preoccupy your mind. But the thing is, though, is what I'm learning out of this is that I just put my trust and faith in a higher power, okay? And that is, for me, God. I put my trust and faith in God and not in man, okay? I wish it could be that way, but I don't. And so what I find to be the truth, the only truth that I really know is God, okay? This is what I know. And I kind of related to my diet and lifestyle. It took me a long time to figure out that carbs weren't bad for me and carbs were actually the answer. Okay. The carbs were the answer because we had been told for so long that sugar's bad, carbs are bad. They would, say that all processed food was bad because of sugar and carbs, not because of the fat. And I wholeheartedly believed it for a long time, as many people do, and most people still do. Okay, that messaging has been ingrained in us for so long. And what I have found to be the truth is, the actual truth is that carbs are actually very vital to your existence on Earth. Without carbohydrates, without glucose to your cell, every second of every day, your brain will starve and die. That is the truth. It took me a long time to get to this truth, but thank God that I did, okay? And I look at God as the truth and carbohydrates as the truth. And I'm going to relate this back to diet. And once you find the truth, this truth seriously will help you and set you free. It may not be what you want to hear, because it does not feel good to know that you have been deceived and been lied to by people that you trusted. Yeah, that's really not a good feeling at all. It's not. But imagine to think we were living in a world, we were naive to think that everyone was out for our best interests. Oh God, it's not true. People are, yes, some people are, but the people who run the show of the world, that's not what their interest is. Actually, quite the opposite. So yeah. And so I am just grateful that I found out this truth and how it's helped me. And I just want to spread that truth to other people. Once you know the truth, you should be telling other people. Otherwise, people are going to suffer, okay, greatly. And it's not their fault. It's just that they didn't know. And of course, there's nothing wrong with, we want to have trust and faith in people and institutions. It's not a bad thing, okay? It's perfectly normal to do that, to just go along with what everyone's saying. I totally get that. So, but I have come to realize that um, the things that I've been taught are not the truth at all. And so once I know something, I'm going to share it with other people. And carbs, carbohydrates, and I have to be very clear because people are going to, misconstrue my words. When I'm talking about carbohydrates, I am talking about fruit. Okay, I'm talking about greens, vegetables, potatoes, raw honey, maple syrup, whole foods. I'm not talking about, because people, when they say carbs, they're just labeling all fast food, processed foods, cookies, donuts. They're just labeling them carbs. And while, yes, of course, there is carbs in there, that's not why everyone's sick. Everyone's sick because of the fat. And haven't you noticed that all these decades, it's like a whole oil industry has gotten a pass. No one talks about the oil industry, and no one labels processed foods as bad because of oil. They're labeling it because of sugar. And, the intent is to mislead people, because sick people make money, not healthy people, okay? It's a business. And the quicker you realize this, the better off you're going to be. Okay, so yeah, I'm not talking about processed foods and fast foods. Okay, those foods are not good for you. Okay, they're not. And they're not good for you because, well, for one, they have chemicals and like toxins, poisons in them. Plus, they have copious amounts of fat. And the sugar and carbs that are in there, they're not like the carbs that you want, that have like minerals and vitamins and antioxidants and hydration attached to it, like fruits and vegetables and greens and potatoes and things like that. So I have to be very clear about that. I am not promoting fast food, processed foods. Okay, those are not healthy foods. Okay, but yeah, so that is what I know to be true. Is carbohydrates are literally the very thing that keep you alive, not fats. So unfortunately, keto people and carnivore people have got it all wrong. And I'm not saying not to eat these foods. What I'm saying is that you should be focusing on carbohydrates if you want to feel good in your body, to look good, and to live a better life. If you restrict yourself of carbohydrates and glucose, you are going to severely suffer, and it's unnecessary. And I understand that people, they just don't know. It's not that it's their fault. They've been misled. They've been misled and deceived, like a million other things that are going on in this world right now, where we're being deceived big time and misled. And it's not for the good. It's just not, unfortunately. And that's why I say you have to seek truth out, guys. You really have to do your research and do your due diligence, and really use discernment and critical thinking, because I understand it's confusing. It's purposefully confusing. And I feel bad for people who don't know the truth yet, because it's not their fault. They just don't know. And it's really hard when you've had a message driven in your mind day after day, for years and years and years, like with other things that we're seeing now. We can see how it manipulates people. So what I encourage people to do, above anything, is to get offline, and just take some time to stay offline and stop consuming information where people can manipulate you. Okay, and get out in nature. You need to detach from the masses, the media, the programming, in order to be able to see things more clearly. And I know not everyone has, depending on where you live. Thank God I live in a northern, more remote place. I get to get out in nature a lot, and it really helps being out in nature. When you're on your phone and you're consuming media and information all the time, it gets a little fuzzy, like when you get out in nature and you kind of like deprogram, you'll start to see things more clearly. Okay, at a minimum, people should be getting off of all fast food and processed food. When I say processed, I'm not talking about a bag of rice, okay, or a bag of potatoes. I'm talking specifically about foods that have, more than one ingredient, that have chemicals and all these other concoctions in there and don't really have any real nutrition in them. They really don't. Okay, at a minimum, get off those foods. Okay, and get in some carbohydrates, some whole food carbohydrates. I'm not here to tell people like not to eat certain foods. Okay, if you like fish or whatever it is that you like, um, but you need to know that you run on carbohydrates and you need to get in carbohydrates. Okay, this is for your own well-being. And yeah, but my point, back to my point, was get outside in nature, because nature is very healing and helps to deprogram you, and it helps to have clarity of thought. Okay, and also too, I also encourage people to read books, old books. Look at the way things were done, specifically of our grandparents' age. I have some books about a couple who are, well, they'd be gone now, but they would be like 115 today, 110 if they were still living. I think they died at like 100. I have books from them on how they ate their whole life. I find that the generation, our grandparents' generation, know the most. They are the generation, and that we know of in history, that has lived the longest lived, that I'm aware of, that have lived while being lean, not suffering from terrible diseases like that we're suffering from now in modern times, and that weren't on medications. That is the only generation that I am aware of. So whatever they were doing, in my opinion, makes the most sense to me. It makes the most sense. And you have to understand, back then, they didn't have all this information. They weren't indoctrinated and programmed and conditioned the way we are today, with information about what higher up people are trying to tell us is good for us. Don't trust these people. Don't trust them. They're not good people. Okay. So anyways, I read books. I encourage people to read books from way, way back in the day, okay? From people who weren't heavily influenced and conditioned the way we are through media and technology. Those people had to read books back then, okay? And I find books, especially older books from a long time ago, are better books to read. The books before a lot of science came into play. And I know some of you are going to be like, no, science is, what are you talking about? You have to understand, a lot of science came into play, like I think in the 1940s, around that time, go figure. And you have to understand, unfortunately, science, I'm not saying everyone involved with science. There's good people down below who really want to find out the truth. But at the top of science, the people who control everything, I don't think they're good people. I think they're corrupt. And I think science is corrupt. And I don't think science, at its core, is necessarily about truth. I think science is about power. Okay? Yeah. I used to think it was about truth. I know too much now. And now I know that science is about power. So you have to be very, very careful, even about science, guys. Science is corrupt. And so when people are spewing off all these studies and this and that, it doesn't mean that much to me. It doesn't, because science is corrupt. And it has been for a very, very long time. So I encourage you to do two things to get clarity: your own experience, be out in nature, and to read old books, the ones that they want to ban, that they don't want you to have because they don't want you to know the truth. Those books, okay? We're talking old books, okay? So yeah, if you want to find out the truth. So this is all I know right now, is that I haven't found out many truths, but some. And what I know to be true is carbohydrates. That is the truth about what we run off of, okay? And God. These are the two things that I know. for certain. And you have to understand that even a lot of the history that we've been taught, unfortunately, how do we know that the history we have been taught is even truth? Because there's always been corrupt, evil people for every generation, for every decade. A lot of it way back in the day, actually. And the way the history is written, we don't even know if 100% of that is truth, because who gets to write history? People in power. So yeah, anyways, I'm just at a time where I am realizing that all lies is truth and all truth is lies. Like, everything is backwards. So it's an interesting place to be. But yeah, anyways, guys, that's my video for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll be back again for another video. Thanks, guys. Bye.